What's up, guys, and welcome to WaiGuo Friends English. Today, we're going to talk about something a little different. We're going to talk about paralanguage and why it's important.
Yeah. So the past couple of weeks, we've been cranking out videos on Facebook and on YouTube talking about grammar and vocabulary strategies for them, the importance of them, what they should weigh out to in your study plan. And today we're going to talk about probably one of the more important ones and the most difficult ones, paralanguage.
Right. And so before we get into that, though, what needs to be clear from the beginning is that at WaiGuo Friends English, our goal is not just to pass a test, but it's to communicate.
That's right.
And so if you use grammar translation method, then you might be able to pass the test. Mm-hmm. But if you use a more communicative approach, then you can not only pass the test, but you can also communicate to another person.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what today's lesson is about more about the communication than it is about the passing of the test, because that's what paralanguage is really known for.
Yeah. Honestly, you can learn proper grammar and you can learn the right kinds of vocabulary words, but you might not know that you're insulting somebody. Like, I could say something in proper grammar with natural daily vocabulary to Josh, but I could offend him by how I say it with my body and my voice. So these are very important things. And honestly, it's really hard to learn this from a book. And it's hard to learn it from teachers that haven't lived in the country of the language they're teaching.
Right. So, it's also really hard to measure. So like grammar or vocab, we can put those on a piece of paper or on flashcards or Excel.
You can tell from your writing and getting feedback from your teacher or passing a test or just having successful conversations. You can tell that you're doing pretty well with that. But paralanguage is something that's just really hard to measure how well you're doing in.
Yeah.
So
that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get into the 6 ways that you can make your English better with paralanguage, first we have to define what paralanguage is. Para is a prefix meaning beside or beyond. Mm-hmm. And it's a really good word for this concept because oftentimes when we're speaking, we're also communicating with something else, with our body or with our face. And so it's communicating with, but it's also communicating beyond because it can add meaning or take away meaning from what we're saying.
Yeah.
So here are 6 ways that you guys can make your English better using paralanguage.
So, paralanguage is intonation, it's pitch. These have to do a lot with your voice, but it's your body language too, and it's your facial expressions. Okay, you can't just have your hands moving around and then your face, right? You've got to have both. It's also the speed or like how fast you speak, but it's also the hesitation, the points where you choose to pause in your speech. These are the 6 points of paralanguage.
Right, and all 6 of them are important because a lot of times people focus on 1 or 2 of them, but it still makes the listener feel like the speaker is being super weird. And so that's the point, is that it's not just the message. It's not just the message that you're communicating. It's also how you're communicating that message.
It's like when you write a paper. Okay, the content of your paper is very important, but your professors really care about the way that you're writing it, the format, the way you space things, how big and small your font size is, all of those things. The format communicates just as much as the content does. Right. It's the same thing with vocabulary and grammar, the words you speak, but also the way that you say them in paralanguage.
Number 1 is pitch. And pitch is really important because depending on how high or how low your voice is, changes the meaning of what's being said.
I'm so excited about that movie.
Right? That was really, really high. So that's communicating excitement.
Yeah. But it's like, Josh, don't do that ever again.
That's communicating something totally different. Or maybe a narrator is reading a story and they say, deep in a forbidden forest, there was a man. And so immediately you know that it's something mysterious or something scary. And so
potentially dark. And
potentially, dangerous.
Mysterious.
And so the difference in pitch between having a high pitch and having a low pitch can mean different things.
But what happens if I just use the same pitch for everything?
Then you don't actually have the meaning that you're trying to communicate. Like one of the classic examples is of a boring teacher. A boring teacher, in English, we call that boring teacher monotone. One tone or one pitch even. And so if a person has one tone and they never change their voice, then it's extremely boring and confusing.
This video would be really boring if it was just, this is paralanguage. These are the 6 types of things that contribute to paralanguage. You must study paralanguage.
That'd
be terrible.
So interesting.
That was already too long.
But along with pitch, we also have intonation. And intonation is a change in pitch. So pitch is whether you're high or low, but intonation is when that changes in a sentence. We don't just say stay high or stay low, but we change that pitch. And so a classic example of this is actually Chinese. Chinese is considered a tonal language, which means that they use tones regularly to change the meaning of a word. But English is not considered a tonal language, but does that mean that it doesn't use tones?
Oh, we absolutely use tones.
For
He
sure.
just used tone right there.
Yeah. Does that mean that we don't use tones? I changed my voice to make it go higher or up. And so that changes the feeling or the meaning of the sentence.
Yeah. Now, a lot of language learners know that English rises the tone at the end of a sentence to make a question. However, something else that's really important and practical to know that we can do real quick is that you can change pitch or change your tone on individual words. And a classic one classics are interjections or things where you're saying, oh.
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 Just by us changing our voice, even though that's a silly example, just by us changing our voice, it changes the meaning of what we're trying to say. That intonation can have a great deal of change and impact on what you say. But if you never change your voice, whether it's high or whether it's low, then it becomes very confusing. So if I ask Amber, are you going to the party next week?
I don't know.
Am I asking a question or if I am saying a question or saying a statement?
Nervous?
It becomes very confusing. So as language learners, you guys need to try to learn not just pitch, but also the change in pitch, the intonation.
Yep, definitely. And match that with certain meanings. And a lot of your own languages do that very same thing. So it's a matter of not just thinking about the words and translating in your head as you speak, but you need to be focusing on that change of voice because you might get the words out, but your meaning might still be jumbled because you didn't have the right intonation.
So number 1 was pitch. Number 2 was intonation, and number 3 is speed. Depending on how fast you speak or how slowly you speak, that could actually change the meaning of what you're trying to say.
You can make somebody feel really stupid by talking to them very slowly. Or you could communicate that you're very frustrated with somebody by speaking very slowly and deliberately. I do this with my son all the time. He's 3, so he's challenging us quite a bit.
Right.
Sometimes I'll say, hey, James, go pick up your toys. James, go pick up your toys. And maybe by the 3rd time, I'm like, James, go pick up your toys. Right? See what I did there? That speed, slowing down the speed just communicates my frustration with him. And he's pretty quick to go pick up his toys after that.
Right. And so slowness can communicate a lot, but also fast or how fast and being fast when you speak can communicate a lot too. So if I call a person and I'm on the phone, they can't see my face, they can't see my body language, all they hear is the speed of my voice. And I say, hey, I need you to come over here like right now.
What's wrong?
Yeah, they're gonna think something is wrong. Bad. It's an emergency. It's time sensitive because I'm speaking really quickly. I'm in a hurry.
Or it could be something like you're really anxious. Like, I really don't know what to do about this. I'm just super scared. I'm really upset. I'm nervous about this test. Like, yeah, that would just mean that I'm very anxious and I'm wound up. That's your phrasal verb of the day right there.
Right. And so too fast can be maybe not what you want to communicate. Too slow can also be maybe not what you want to communicate. So that's speed. Speed is number 3. Number 4 is hesitation. So hesitation and silence can be an absolute game changer for a person, especially if they're doing presentations or public speaking.
Yes. You can use it as a way to emphasize what you're saying. Like you can build up until something. You can build up, you can ask a series of questions meant to be rhetorical, not for them, your audience to answer, but you can build up a series of rhetorical questions and then you can pause or hesitate for a few seconds just to show that you are going to answer that buildup of questions. So it's definitely a way to utilize and to display authority in an area or whatever you're talking about. It does a lot of other things. Like if I said, hey, Josh, I really like your shirt. That hesitation was probably uncomfortable for Josh.
Or another classic example is if a woman puts on a new dress and says, hey, honey, does this dress make me look fat? And the husband goes, no.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
She's going to be like, did you hesitate?
Are you lying to me?
Are you lying to me? And so just that space can communicate something that's actually much larger than what you're actually saying. And so as my music teacher told me in high school, sometimes the space can mean more than the notes themselves. Because if there's too much noise and too much stuff going on with no space, then it can become very complicated and people just kind of tune you out.
Yeah, that's something that I used to say a lot when I was teaching in China is that language is like music in a lot of ways. It has flow, it has pause, it has music, it has pitch, it has intonation, it has all of these things. And so if you think of language kind of like music, it's going to help you make more sense. Because if you, again, you don't want to listen to music that's all the same pitch. You don't want to listen to something that the intonation is always wrong. Like it goes high for really sad things or low for really happy things. That would not be a very successful song unless the point is to confuse you, in which case it's done a great job. But that's one of the things to think about is language has flow and pattern and it has lots of flex. And if you can learn these things, it will really enrich your language speaking.
And the last thing I'll say about hesitation and silence is that in general, advanced speakers need to use silence and hesitation more.
They do.
Oftentimes, my students that were more advanced, they were so confident in their English and they wanted to practice their English so much that they wouldn't stop speaking. They would just keep on going and going and going.
They lost the effect of silence.
Right. And for beginners, ones that are struggling right now to kind of gain language, they oftentimes use hesitation and silence too much.
Yes.
And so those people need to be pushed to speak even if they don't exactly know what they're saying.
Yes, definitely.
So number 5 that you guys can use to improve your language as far as paralanguage goes would be facial expressions.
Yep. You can say a lot just with your face. And it's actually something that we commonly say in America, that you know how long a couple has been married by how much they can communicate with just their face. So already Josh and I use, when we're not going to use Chinese to talk over our kids' heads, we often use our faces to communicate to each other. And so that's one of the things that's really important. And honestly, while we were in China and when we work with students online, it is more difficult to see what they're meaning because a lot of times they're thinking about translating in their mind. They're thinking about what they're going to say, but they're not working on communicating that meaning with their face. So there's a phrase called stone-faced, okay? Or poker face. You could use it that way too. Stone face has more of a you have no feeling kind of thing, where poker face is a very deliberate kind of meaning. But either way, your face just doesn't change. It does not give away what you're trying to communicate, and it really should. Yeah. It really should.
And a lot of these elements of paralanguage, they combine together. Mm-hmm. So intonation, showing your anger by the way you sound, and also facial expression come together. And sometimes our students, we found that they try to use intonation, but they don't try to use facial expression.
The result is a very confused listener.
Right. And so if I say, I'm so happy for you. Yesterday you did this and it made me so happy. It made me so happy to be with you.
You look great.
As opposed to that, if you said, I can't even do it. If you try to use a facial expression, but not the intonation, it's also very difficult. We found that that's actually more difficult to try to use a facial expression but not intonation.
That
and
was
so
really hard.
one of the games that we played in university was trying to laugh without smiling.
It's really hard.
It's very hard because your facial expression does not match your intonation.
Like a real laugh. I'm not talking about like ha ha ha. I'm like talking about a real laugh, but don't change your face. That's really hard to do.
Right. And so facial expressions are extremely important in our language because one of the main things that we look when we're talking to a person is at each other's faces.
That's true.
And so that's number 5. Number 6, paralanguage that can really help you with your fluency is body language.
Yes. And this involves everything from your spacing with somebody to just your hand motions to the way that you sit or you stand. All of those things are body language, and they're all very important. They're also somewhat different depending on how close you are to a person in relationship. Okay, we're married, so we can be very close. But if we're friends, we're probably going to sit more like this in America. Okay. And if we're coworkers or something like that, we're probably still going to sit a little bit further apart. And if we're strangers, we might not even look at each other very much.
I'd be like off the screen.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't sit on the same park bench in America.
And it's really important. Space is huge, but space is also really difficult to really nail down because not only does it change country by country. So, for example, England may not have the same space rules as, let's say, America, but it also changes family to family.
Yes.
So, for example, my family, we tend to bring people in closer, and we tend to hold people that we love. Like me and my brothers, we hug, and we actually hug each other, physically touch one another, but her family is not the same.
Me and my brothers have not hugged for since we were probably really little. Physical affection is not something that's huge in my family, but for his family, they do. And that's okay. We're not saying one is right over the other, but we're saying that things are very difficult. And especially when a teacher comes and I come in and I'm like, hey, it's probably a little uncomfortable to just hug your friend, but to Josh, that's not uncomfortable.
Right. One of the really funny ways that we found in China was that some of our students, their faces would get really close together.
So close.
And so when we were giving a final exam and they were a little nervous, their body language was actually appropriate because they were nervous and they would lean forward, which is oftentimes what you do when you're a little nervous or excited, when you have lots of energy.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes they would lean too far forward and they would get really close to our faces. And in America, if you put your face right next to another person's, that can be extremely rude and make that listener extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah, you can see it in a lot of movies where we have that's like a funny thing. Like it's a body language joke for somebody to get way up close to you, and you're just kind of like, okay, no, thank you.
So that's number 6, and we are going to talk about these elements more in future videos. This was just a touch on them, but the overview of all of these is asking the question, how do I study it then? Yeah.
So we started at the beginning, we said, this is one of the more difficult things to learn, especially when you don't live here. Because, a lot of native teachers, non-native English teachers, okay, they don't speak English as their first language. A lot of them struggle with knowing how to teach this because they themselves haven't lived there. Maybe they haven't lived in America or in Britain, or maybe they haven't spent extensive amount of time learning the culture of paralanguage. And though they might get some things right, they might do some things really well, others they might not. But it's also the case if you study just TV or YouTube, what you're seeing is exaggerated motion. Okay? So for Josh and I, yes, though we sit up and we use our hands a lot, I might not move as much as I do when I'm on video because, I'm not trying to entertain anybody. I'm not trying to communicate to a camera like I am right now. I'm exaggerating a lot of body language because I have to. It's not interesting. If I talk like I talk to Josh off camera, it will not be that interesting to you. So that's another thing that's difficult about watching movies and YouTube and things like this to learn paralanguage is honestly, you might not see it. Now, it's different when the teacher intentionally creates a video to show you what you can do. If they're doing that intentionally, that's different. But until we turn one out like that, what you see us do is really extra.
Yeah. But we tend to purposefully not go as far as some other things. So,
No.
for example, a lot of the TV shows that are really common out there, they use interesting and funny body language and paralanguage because it's entertaining to us.
Mhm.
American TV shows use funny paralanguage to entertain Americans. The problem we've seen is that our students think that that's normal paralanguage.
Yeah.
And it's not. Normal paralanguage is what two Americans do to each other. And we don't act like that. We act what I would think of as normal, but the reality is normal is different in different countries.
Yes. And honestly, different regions as well. So here in the American South, where we are, people can be closer much faster than you would in the American North. In American cities are typically, you're closer together in proximity, but you're farther apart emotionally. And it's the same thing. Maybe you have more of a stone face to walk down the street because honestly, you don't want people looking at you, even though you're surrounded with people. Whereas in the South, you see somebody walking from a mile away, you're probably going to wave at them. Okay, you're going to open the door for somebody well before they get there because that's acceptable, socially friendly body language for the American South. So it's different by region as well. And we'll get into that as time goes on, for sure, because honestly, it's really interesting.
And one of the biggest things that we have run into is people basically, they ask the understandable question, but do I really have to study paralanguage? I have to study vocabulary. I have to study grammar. Do I really need to study a paralanguage?
Just, there's not a paralanguage test that I'm aware of.
There's not a paralanguage dictionary either. However, researchers show that almost 70% of what we communicate is non-verbally. It's not with our mouth, it's not with the sound, but by our body language.
Yeah.
And so we've actually had the opportunity to go to a country where we didn't know any of the language. So we were really dependent on our body language. And although there was lots of mistakes, there was also surprising amount of communication that happens just with body language alone.
We were able to survive without Chinese tutoring for a while. Like we were able to get by and buy groceries and pay for things that we needed to pay, get phone cards, whatever it is, by just using our body language. We didn't know all the Chinese words for that. We were still learning turn on the light, turn off the light, you know? So this is one of the things that body language is huge. And if you have not been a language baby, meaning if you as an adult or a student have not been to a different language or different country that speaks a different language and have had to face that to learn what it's like to be a language baby and only have your body, that's something you should really think about learning and facing one day because that's going to help your language a lot.
Right. And so we're going to leave you guys with 3 things that you can do right now to help your para-language learning. And number 1 is surround yourself with those kind of people, whether they be Americans or Englishmen or people from New Zealand, wherever you're trying to reach, try to find someone like that, and especially multiple people like that, and watch them interact. One of my favorite things to do in China was to go to KFC and just watch people.
That's true. Yeah, it was great.
Because you learn so much. You learn about how close do people sit, how loudly do people eat, what do they do with their hands, where do they look with their eyes,
how do they interact with their kids?
How do they interact with their kids? All these things you can learn just by watching the people that you're trying to be like.
Mm-hmm.
So find a group of people that are in the target language or speak the target language and just watch how they interact with each other, which is why we do these videos together so that you guys can actually watch us do the same thing.
Mm.
So way number 2 that you guys can help your paralanguage right now is to have a friend who is willing to critique you or correct you.
Yes, absolutely. That's been actually one of the most helpful things about both of us learning the same language this time, because we can get onto each other. My hearing for the tones in Chinese is better than Josh's, but Josh's vocabulary is better than mine. So we're really good, and we're also not shy about getting onto each other either and critiquing each other's Chinese. However, we are not Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
So I still have to take what he suggests to me with a grain of salt. I mean, really, your vocab is better than mine, so I know that you probably know more, but he can trust my ear probably more than his own. However, when we have Chinese friends over, they're the ones that we really open up to and say, hey, did I say this right?
Mm.
Hey, tell me when I'm saying something wrong, or hey, teach me something today. All right, but we also, trade English for that too. So it's kind of a lot of language learning going on.
Yeah. And so the last way, the number 3 that you guys can use today to improve your paralanguage without being in the context or having even any foreign friends at all is to question yourself. Why do you do the things that you do?
For you to be able to understand and identify why we do what we do in English, you need to be able to understand why you do what you do in your language. You need to understand what you do that is not universal. Okay, what is due to your culture and your context, because the better that you are at identifying what you do in your language, in your context, in terms of paralanguage, the better you will be able to identify what we do in ours.
Perhaps a really easy example is food. Every country has food. Every country eats food. However, sometimes the paralanguage with that food is different. So for example, in the American South, there's almost an unwritten rule that if somebody gives you a plate of food, you finish it. You finish
bit of it.
Every bit
whether you
on
like
the plate.
it, whether you like it or you don't, you like it.
Right. But in other parts of the world or in other places, if you eat all the food on the plate, there's kind of an assumption that
the host didn't give you enough.
Yeah, maybe the host didn't give you enough, or maybe you want more. In China, it was especially that way with tea. If we drink our cup of tea, and in America, we want to finish that cup of tea. In the American South, to say that we liked it and that we're full and we're happy and we drink the whole thing, we put it down and we're happy. The meal's done, that's over. But in China, if they see an empty cup, they want to fill it back up. And so that's just one small example of how questioning why you do the things that you do now in your setting, in your country, in your culture can really help you improve your paralanguage learning.
For sure. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This one was a little bit longer this week, but it is setting off. It is the very beginning, the introduction to a whole series of videos on paralanguage specific to certain situations. So I hope you tune in for those. I hope you stick with us and join our Facebook group if you want to have specific grammar lessons, just short grammar bite lessons with some practice. We are very active on there as well. Okay, guys, well, that's it. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Bye.